Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever this happens to be arriving in your reality of now. It is early morning for me, and it's before most of my family's up. So I'm going to actually grab a Red Bull, I know, not the best, and sneak into a bath. The best! But first, I had a really interesting conversation with my oldest. And we were talking about our military state, the possibility of war, the choices, things that have been seen in the news, that kind of conversation. Not exactly a lighthearted Christmas conversation, but every time I talk to my son, I'm moving things. Every time I talk to my son, it's always good, deep conversation. I love the way his mind works. He was talking about this information he came across, where there was a hospital that was going to be invaded, and they knew that the invasion was going to happen. And there are these babies at NICU. Other hats ago, I used to volunteer at NICU, and I'd hold the babies. Holding babies is the best medicine ever. They're calm. It's just hold babies. And in the NICU, there's a lot of babies that need hugs and need the extended time, energy, and effort of touch. There was this news article, and what was decided was to leave the babies that were too compromised to move. And the babies left got to slowly die. And I was thinking of what it would feel like to be in that position, to be in the hospital, know that hostile forces are coming with the intent to harm and kill, and prioritizing who and what you can save. And also, a lot of people took off and ran because they were being hunted. And I was thinking of how cowardice that was, to just turn your back and leave. If you know they're gonna die, at least end them peacefully. Maybe that's way too much of the farmer in me coming out, because son and I were talking about it. I'm like, not that that's the right answer either, but if I was the one in the choice of leaving, I wouldn't leave it to starve and slowly die. Although a coward's heart does that very thing. It thinks of itself, and it only acts and reacts in best interest of self, which oftentimes is short-sighted. In my mindscape, I was like, I wonder if they could like barricaded the space and blah, 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 blah. We don't know the details of what actually had happened, but we do know that because of adults not getting along, babies died. We know that. And we know it's happening in a place of war that's always been at war, that's convinced of superiority and inferiority. My God says I'm better than you, and therefore I get to kill you. Collectively, the most common reason to justify and end another's existence is religion. And those unattended babies, they have the same gods, the same internal divinity. I also don't believe in accidents. I believe that we choose our parents, and we come in exactly when we're supposed to arrive, and we leave exactly when we're going to leave. So those beings came in and knew there was a chance that they'd come in and get a few weeks, months of struggle, and then just leave uncared for and unattended. As what? A lesson for the adults? So that was our conversation. It was that and many other things. But I was thinking about that. Those impossible situations that you're put in, where you make choices with the information that you have. I'm going to pull, this is the Gaia deck. See, I told you I use other decks. This is the Gaia deck. I'm going to randomly be pulling one, and it's going to represent the stillborn and the unborn and the newly transformed. Babies are always precious. And being born into an environment where your basic needs are met. Basic needs: food, water, touch, care, and safety. Basic. The unprotected. That's kind of what hurt the most. It was easier to go into an intellectual dialogue of what we would do or what we thought and how we perceived. I know I was glad I wasn't put in that position. I also know that war, other countries, this country, any country, affects everybody. The children that didn't make it, they could have been, they should have been, they would have been the answer. Our children are more advanced than we are. Their DNA is a combination of everything we have to offer, everything that other person has to offer, and the improved version of that. The natural instincts to protect, that's also normal. The ability to have the choice to go to a space and purposely kill, hurt, harm. We were talking about the psychological warfare. And the people that are targeted are our first responders. It's our firefighters, our EMS. It's the people that in a time of need, they run forward. That's who's targeted first, so that all those sitting back watching can feel hopeless. It's done on purpose. Those babies were forced to die on purpose, not accidental. I would like to think if I was in a position where I was going to and was forced to leave a bunch of babies in a NICU behind, that I would have at least terminated it. And even that decision, that's not a right decision. I'd be held accountable for that once all the storm dissipates. What if they could have lived? What if somebody would have saved them? What if? I'm not a fan of keeping things in pain on purpose. I find that behavior destructive, uncalled for, and cowardice. So anyhow, we're going to do some light language, and we're going to send energy out for the things that were left unprotected. I think we've all been in situations where we thought something was there, and we turn out it's not there. Where you've believed. I'm assuming the mothers that gave birth at that hospital thought that would be a safe place, or hoped it to be. Crone energy. All right. unprotected innocence. Shielding protection around unprotected innocence. And accountability for actions to behaviors. Fool's journey. Here's the Fool's journey. All right. 1 and a 3. Bottom of the deck, still crone. Top of the deck is water. 7 of water. Okay. Now, we're going to pull one of the sacred geometry cards. I am going to pull a sacred geometry card for the unprotected innocence. We're also going to pull a card for clarity. I have never been in the military. All of my connections to military and wartime and all of that is through books, movies, and second-hand opinion approaches. That being that, peace, care, concern, compassion, that's something we all can add to the pot. You bring you everywhere you go. My dad was in World War II, and I'd curl up to him. I'd smoke a pipe, and I'd curl up into him, and he'd tell me stories of those times. The psychological impact. They would strap a bomb to a child's body and walk and force that child to walk towards the American troops. And if the child didn't do it, the parent would be shot. I got your mother, go walk towards your death. And the Americans also had no option but to shoot children. The psychological impact of that left a mark on my father. There are things that you go through, and when you walk through the other side, your colors are different. The way that you look and perceive and feel reality of life is different. And one of the things that was heavy on his heart was that he couldn't protect the children. And that situation that recently occurred, I think that would be the heaviest. All blame and coulda, woulda, shoulda aside, the not protecting. Well, I'm going to go on the assumption they couldn't. Because if you could have protected, you could have made it better, and you chose to make it worse. That's a different focus. We're going to focus on innocence, protecting, new life, rebirth. All right, sacred geometry card. Oh, how did you get in here? Humanity symbolizes individuality, friendship, society, cooperation, and help. Menes. I'll draw that symbol and then meditate, and then draw that symbol and then meditate. Well, and other symbols, but it... Huh. Saturday, I was using these cards with those tarot symbols. Um, Look at you flipped over. Authenticity. This one. All right, putting you back straight. Okay. All right. Humanity. Reflection. Expression. Okay, protection. Sending good wishes. In my mindscape, I'm going to be hearing and feeling children's laughter. A certain one in particular, because I can always hear her laughing. But that will be where I'm focused on. And the intention and the directionality of protection. There are some heavy things that people are having to deal with. And the lighter the heart, the more open the mind, the less likely to pull the trigger. Okay. Bottom of the deck. Dynamic 23 breaks down to a 5. The frequency of dynamics supports our ability to harmonize between layers and aspects of different origins and frequencies. It helps us put together reality that is made up of many different elements, both familiar and completely new, with ease, grace, and great joy. Many different elements. I was earth moving yesterday, both physically in my backyard and also with I was working on a person yesterday, and the feel of earth was strong. Earth moving. Okay, top of the deck. Commitment. Commitment. The things that you would do for free because you do it anyways, because it's who you are. Know why you do what you do. One of the ways to not be a closed-eyed blind person pulling triggers and hurting others is awareness. That ability to think and perceive for yourself. Source is internal, which means we all have source. How we learn to harmonize and live with each other is part of this journey of life that we are on. I would like to believe we'll have a reality that is based on more than war, that enriches, uplifts, supports, and harmonizes. Okay, commitment, 13. Okay, I'm also going to be holding on to the number 13. Children's laughter. I'm going to be putting that into the right wrist. I don't know why, but I'm going to pull to the right wrist. I don't know why, but I can physically feel something touching my wrist as I speak it, so. Sensuality. Reminds us, the frequency of sensuality reminds us that as spirits in human bodies, we are sensual beings experiencing joy and pleasure from the physical world of our senses. Experiencing joy and pleasure. I came across someone who opened up my vantage point about beginning in another country. I've got my own reference of reality of what I've walked and went through and yada yada. And he was sharing at this age that happened, and he went to this thing and that created a this thing kind of story. And in that I was seeing some benefits. Like, where do our young people go? They go to college to be in debt for their existence, or they go into the military to be owned for their understandable existence. Slightly, mostly, hopefully, joking. Not completely joking. The military tells you when, where, how, who. This gentleman who was sharing with me parts of his personal experience had it decided for him where to go, and he was too little to make it his own choice. It was decided for him. And then how he was taught was drilled into him. I guess that wraps back to when you walk through something and you walk out differently. When he was telling me, I made a light-hearted comment about America could use places where our young boys and girls could go, that they can learn trade skills, they can learn useful things, and like, I got a village over here and I've got someone who's interested in metal welding. I'll send him to the village over there, and the village over there who's really good at creating works of art out of metal will teach that child, and that child comes back and brings it here, and now this place is fortified, that place is fortified, and we share and contribute resources. That sharing and contributing. I made a somewhat lighthearted comment about the sharing and contributing lack that is with our younger generation, because it's like college, minimum wage, or military conscript. There's some things that could happen, but for the most part, that's the 3 avenues that our young kids in America have open to them. Broadly speaking. Obviously, if you've got parents that can yada yada, or grandmas and grandpas that can blah blah blah, you'll have more options and availabilities. But on average, there's not exactly a village where I can take my budding artist to go and be safe, to come back and bring it back here. That ability to be safe and to share and to express. Hearing what he had to say, and then realizing what a blessing America is. I got to go to Washington. We've got a beloved guest visiting us, and this person had not been to this side of the U.S. yet. So we went down to Washington and got to see the World War II Memorial and Lincoln. And there's other things going on. There's squirrels that ran up to my daughter and kissed her hands. There was a lot of other things going on. And it was very enjoyable and educational. I'm debating between deleting this and having less chat in the next one, just focusing on protection, or if I should leave it out. See the fact my here is now through here. It's interesting. The way that we feel, see, and sense. The reason I had brought up that other person, experiencing joy and pleasure in the physical world. One of the things that was taken, if you are taught how to lie and then rewarded for the gift of that and enforced that that's okay. The issue with lying is first you lie internal and then it's external. And then some will believe it and some won't, and some this and some that, and everyone's got their own blah, 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 blah. When you lie to yourself, you'll cause confusion. It's if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know why you're in a state of confusion. The advantage of that flow of confusion, you find what inspires you, uplifts you, supports you, what you like, what you're encouraged to, and you dive more into that within reason, but follow the things that interest you. That childlike curiosity and that excited to learn more, that happiness is internal, and that creates those bridges. The things that gentleman was taught were different. The things my father were taught, different. The people standing at that hospital that walked away and were put into a position where they let babies die or created the need to evacuate hospitals and places of care. That energy is driven by fear. Those that aren't fed into a fear system, they feel abundant, healthy, wealthy, wise, kind, caring, compassionate. People in a good mood very seldom are picking on others. It's that you have a right to be joyful, and your human natural state from the moment that you're born is joy. Let's recapture some of that. And externally, focus on bringing that protection to what's not protected, the innocent, the seed potentials is what was coming across my mind, but there are energies that will come and take, and that's all they do is they show up to take and feel justified to do so. I'm going to pull a card, both from the Gaia deck and the Sacred Geometry. The energy that takes, we're going to put this on the left side. And then we're going to be focusing on the energy of protection and pressing and expressing, pressing that energy further away. That the energy that comes just to take, that comes to deplete, to hurt, to harm, to cause confusion, disarray, and mess, that energy, a block, that they trip on themselves, that they fall into their own chaos, that what they create becomes who and what they are, and that closes the circuit and doesn't bleed over into where the innocent should be protected. So, randomly picking a card to represent the takers. Thought. And then I'm also going to be randomly pulling Sacred Geometry, the energy protection against that kind of energy. I came across, well, I won't go into it now, but energy that is hurting, so it hurts others, just to take, to steal, to cause hurt. 5. Synergy 41 breaks down to a 5. 5, red energy, that is a wonderful, wonderful barrier. Okay. So the right wrist, children laughter, a fire barrier, protection. I'm focusing on the wrist, focus on your feet. Drawing, borrowing, but drawing the energy from Gaia. You bring it into your vessel, let it go all the way through and then out. The advantage of this is in reality of life, oftentimes it's easier to help another than to ourselves. I think part of that has to do with low self-esteem and lack of awareness of divinity internal. That fear frequency that is often rampant in our societies. So you focus on the ground, draw the energy up from Gaia. I'll be focusing on the right wrist, children's laughter, 13, red, 5, and creating distance and space. Nia tutariyata kudriya shusuyata rapoyana moyata ya sushuyata ya moyata ya. Nia sushuyata yata kumanayata ya. Hayana moyasa shuyata ya kunamanayasa shusuyata tariyata kodana moyata. Bring in the energy of the hummingbird. Kuya sashuyata ya rapoyana moya sashasukoya kakimoya tariyata yata kumaya. Hayana moyasa shusuyata yata kunamayata yata kunamanayata. Strengthen the bonds at our feet with Gaia. With ease and the endurance of lifetimes, bring protection to the innocent. Awareness of actions, deeds, and behavior. Flow that through and disperse. I don't know if you heard it, but my wrist snapped. Well, before I go there, I'm a bone talker. In Alaska, I would isolate, behind locked doors, kind of isolate, and I would meditate laying down without moving, and my bones would snap. The reason the door is locked is that my daughter would jump on me, and that would almost cause like this weird seizure. It'd take me a few minutes to get back. So I learned certain meditative practices. Access denied till I'm finished. All right. Protection offered to the innocent. 9. Oh, the 9s. All right. And the light language, just a random card. Masculine energy, protection. All right. Take care. Be well.